The Joe Rogan Experience.
Can I tell you this story? It's a bit of a story, but it's fun to tell. So I had wrote like 100 songs last year, and I didn't feel great about any of them, to be honest. The label liked a few and was trying to pick radio singles, but I just didn't have no conviction about it, Joe. Mm. And my daughter at the same time had found her way into this little back road church in the middle of nowhere, about a country where we live. She kept asking me to come, and, you know, I have a tumultuous relationship with the Lord, so I wasn't, sure how I'd show up, but I was like, you know what, I'll go. And I went, dude, there's 100 people, a back road church, 20 of them were kids that went to high school with her. And around the same time, I caught this little motherfucker smoking pot, right? She's 15, she's doing 15-year-old kid stuff, and I was like, buddy, you won't believe it. About your age, I started making these same decisions, and I was going to this little bitty church in Antioch. I tell her the story of this church. She don't believe it. So I take her to this old church. It's still there. It's called Whitsitt Chapel Baptist Church. And that night, riding home with her, I didn't tell nobody, but in my mind, I thought, that's the album I'm writing. Like, fuck every song I wrote, I'm writing this album. I called Zach Crowell. He produced every Sam Hunt song ever. One of the biggest producers in town. I've known him my whole life. He's here with me right now. And I said, dude, I want to write an album called Going to Church. And I just kind of want to write this kind of journey and just kind of A to Z it and write a real project. And Zach was like, I'm in. He's like, well, why don't you just call it Whitsitt Chapel? So that's how we ended up doing Whitsitt Chapel. So when Need a Favor came into the fold, I was like, what's worship music for sinners sound like? Like, what does a motherfucker like me? Because, when you're in church, it's holy, holy, you are great. I was like, I don't necessarily feel that way. So how do I feel? You know what I mean? And then it was like, only talk to God when I need a favor. And I was like, we got to build it with a choir and big production. I want that old stomp, clap, that old church feel. And I want to bring like that vibe of that church, into the, and the whole thing is, the whole album is built on that vibe of like, there's fire and brimstone. There's everything you go through in a Sunday morning worship service. If you've ever been to a Sunday in the South worship service, you're going to convince you're a horrible human at some point. You're going to hell. And then at the end, they'll hit a major key instead of a minor one finally and go, but there's hope. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, how do I write that?